From the heart of Africa's academic discourse, TV Bricks Africa brings you exclusive coverage of the BPI Seminar Series at the University of South Africa. As thought leaders, policymakers, and scholars convene, they confront the pressing questions shaping the continent's future: democracy, economic transformation, and enduring impact of colonial legacies through the topic, Whither a demographic dividend or demographic disaster? What is to be done?
The BPI Seminar Series, actually this the lecture, it's our way of kickstarting the seminar series. We'll have, I think, about 5 seminars this year in different topical areas, of course. What informed it is that as the BPI Foundation, there's a lot of work that we do. There's a lot of ideation that happens amongst the BPI community and engagements with other stakeholders and so forth. But we haven't really done much to begin to engage with the public, so that the public knows what we think, and we know what, obviously I would say we know what the issues are. So the seminar series puts out our thinking out there.
What does experience and data say about certain types of political systems and economic models that have governed the world in the past century? Whereas I often look at reality through the lens of optimism, I cannot but reflect on the weight of history on our own experiences of democracy as South Africans and indeed as Africans. One of the questions that linger on my mind is how the successes and the setbacks of democracy have also to do with the colonial legacy which we experience as neocolonialism in Africa today. And that I want to put as a question. And precisely because of this question, can we think of democracy as a universal concept and a practice to the extent that we can say one size fits all? Prior to 1994, majority of people, of African people, people of Indian descent, people of mixed descent, did not have any role in leading institutions, in participating in the economy, in forming part on the decisions that the democratic dividend would be about. And I think the dawn of democracy and the evolution of leadership, governance, economic transformation and associated has created an opportune moment for transforming the legacies of the past and innovating and co-constructing socio-political and economic policy systems and practical application that can help society. So we shouldn't trivialize the gains that have been made.
Albie Sachs said something very profound, that in his intervention, that we have the country, but do we have the society? And I thought that I should elaborate and follow this a little bit to ask the question whether a democratic dividend or a demographic disaster. I tried to explore the nexus of democracy and demography and pathways towards how those two can converge and probably deliver the dreams of the RDP. The issues that confront South Africa today are not ones that we anticipated when we were voting in 1994. The RDP was very clear around what the objectives and what could be achieved. But 30 years later, while democracy, certainly there's been a dividend, and as I said, Albie Sachs really asked the difficult question as to democracy has delivered, but is the society? And in terms of that, he was meaning the country is secured. You have South Africa's soil, you can measure it and it's independent. But whether society has been the one we anticipated. And I think this is where the question is. Has the society that got the democracy gotten the attendant things that democracy comes with? Food, education, work, and that general freedom.
surprised about where South Africa is. I must be honest. I'm not surprised that growth is at 1.4 projected now. And the outer 3 years on average, maybe 2.4, 1.9, 1.7. And I can tell you every time we have budget policy statements, what happens? Growth is revised downwards. Why? Because the policy and the policy framework and the policy environment is stagnant. It is not moving. So why do we expect different outcomes? It's, for me, that is the conundrum, is that unless we change the way the macroeconomic framework, our institutions, the management of our development finance institutions, if we are going to propose a thrust towards industrialization and industrial policy, there is no way that just happens without deliberate state intervention. This can be done. You need a couple of fundamentals, and we outline this, and we also project what happens if you implement these fundamentals. Industrialization has to be a key growth driver. Why? You've got an unemployment crisis. You've got a spatial development crisis. You've got an unequal, or the most unequal society in the world crisis. You also have a social issue where you now have gender-based violence and murder and crime and all the related social problems that we have and are experiencing, very much related to the lack of dignity of our people because they're not productive. We really need to have ideas as to how to widen our growth and to increase our growth rate, but also to have economic gains for employment and also deal with unemployment and inequality and poverty, which is astronomically high. So you've got to look at the industrial divide. You've got to look at industrialization as a matter of urgency, but also space it out. You make sure that the economic areas that didn't have, investment, regions that you have low level of economic infrastructure, and also look at financing tools and mechanisms that regenerate enterprise development into these value chains that people are should be a big part of, particularly the retail space.
Statistics are about informing discourse, about persuading others on the basis of facts. It's very, very crucial. Without evidence, we cannot persuade. Without evidence, we cannot convince. Without evidence, we cannot act. However, it is exactly that trap that we have fallen in, which is acting without evidence. And as a consequence of that, we are doing things that are wrong. And we are not questioning, or we question why things go the same way that they have gone. And we never stop to think, have we got the right evidence? Or better still, have we asked the right questions? And I think it is not by not asking the right questions that we find ourselves in this perpetual ritual of a State of the Nation address, the budget speech, promising all this and that, and by the next State of the Nation address and the budget speech, we have forgotten what we had promised. Because we have aversion to facts. And when you have an aversion to facts, you can survive that ritual after ritual.
Freedom without liberation economically and gaining from the economic prosperity of the land, minerals of the land, the factors of production of the land, that has to go part and parcel with democracy. But now what we've seen is that post-liberation of most African economies, democracy has gone ahead. Economic liberation remains behind. And so you're democratized, but you're hungry. You're democratized, but people are poor. You're democratized, but the mineral resource and the wealth of many African nations is in the hand of multinational corporations and so forth. And this is the economic model of colonialism, which we have been unable to break free from. And so these are the hard discussions that countries need to have to say, how can we reconfigure? How do we use our gifts that we have been given? All of the phosphorus, or rather the gold, the platinum, the iron ore, all the things that we have that are freely given, cobalt and all these other amazing mineral product and resources that we have, but we're not able to benefit, but foreign capital comes and benefits. And we are not able to translate that. And that means that if we can't translate that into economic gains, the economic model has to be revisited.
As Africa stands at the crossroads of democracy and economic liberation, one thing remains clear. The conversation sparked here must translate into action. From industrial policy to economic equity, the call for transformation is urgent. TV Bricks Africa continues to bring you the critical discussions shaping Africa's future.